Hillsborough County has launched its redesigned website, hcfl.gov. The new domain boasts a variety of improvements to searchability, page layout, navigation, and website speed. The revamped website features robust search functions, making it easier for users to find the information they need. Whether searching for essential government services, paying water bills, accessing event information, learning how to acquire a new trash can, or identifying evacuation zones, the enhanced search functionality ensures quick access to relevant content. HCFL.gov's new design features a clean, modern, and intuitive layout. The streamlined design enhances user-friendliness for easy navigation and access to important resources. Navigating the website is now more straightforward than ever. Users can seamlessly move between different sections, departments, and services while interacting with information and resources. Ready to see what all the fuss is about? Head to hcfl.gov and discover your best source for all things Hillsborough County.
So you have now completed your emergency plan for your family. How about a plan for this family member? Protect your pets during a disaster by including them in your family's emergency plan. Start by making your pet a disaster kit. Put all paperwork into a large Ziploc bag, including a picture of you and your pet, your contact information, vaccination information, and special care instructions. In addition, you should pack certain items to help your pet during the emergency. A 7-day supply of food with bowls, a travel crate, and your pet's favorite toy. Remember, shelters are the place of last resort. Your plan should include being far away from the disaster's epicenter. But if you do find yourself at the shelter, know the rules. Once at the shelter, your pet will be placed in a designated animal section. This is for your pet's safety, as well as other shelter residents. Knowing the shelter rules helps everyone stay safe during an emergency. For more information about shelters, their location, rules, and how to get ready for a disaster, go to hcfl.gov/staysafe.
the June 11, 2024 regularly scheduled land use meeting of the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners. Would everyone please rise for the pledge and invocation given by our chaplain, Commissioner Cameron Cepeda.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Heavenly Father, we come before you this morning. We thank you for who you are. We thank you for your great love and your mercy on our lives. This morning we pray for all the people of Hillsborough County. We ask you to bless them in every area of their lives, in their spirit, soul, and body, and that it is well with them in every area of their lives. We pray for protection over Hillsborough County, the state of Florida, and our nation. We pray for wisdom and that you bless this meeting in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Commissioner Cameron Cepeda. Before I pass things over to Mr. Grady to review the change of the agenda, I want to read into the record from Commissioner Gwen Myers. Please ensure information regarding my late arrival is read into the minutes of the land use meeting. Due to another commitment, I will arrive after the start of the meeting on Tuesday, June 11th. And with that, Mr. Grady, want to review any changes to the agenda?
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Grady, Hillsborough County Development Services. In addition to the withdrawals, continuances, remands published on the agenda on page 3 and 4 of the agenda, we do have 3 changes to the agenda. The first change is on page 10, item E3, PRS application 24-0632. Staff is requesting this item be continued to the July 9th, 2024 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. The second change is a correction on the agenda on page 14, item G1, PRS 24-0627, correcting the agenda to identify the correct service area for the project. It's from rural to urban. And the final change is adding a commissioner item for Commissioner Kemp regarding a recommended board motion directing staff to provide a report and presentation on the progress of Live Local projects at the monthly land use meetings. That concludes all changes to the agenda.
All right, can we have a motion to approve the changes?
So moved.
Motion, Commissioner Cohen, second, Commissioner Kemp. Please record your vote. Changes to the agenda.
Motion carried, 6-0.
All right, can we have a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Cohen, second, Commissioner Owen. Please record your vote on the consent agenda.
Motion carried, 6-0.
Okay, so if anyone's here for a B item, your application's been approved. This time, if you're planning on testifying today, would you please stand, raise your right hand so the clerk can swear you in?
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Okay, Mr. Grady, want to introduce the first item?
Commissioners, the first item of the agenda, item E1, PRS application 24-0027. This is a request to modify a portion of the planned development that's located south of the 19th Avenue Northeast and north of College Avenue and west of I-75 in Ruskin. The request is to modify approximately a 71.2 acre parcel as shown in the map here on the west side of 30th Street. The request is to modify development standards associated with approved multifamily development that's permitted within this project. That includes increasing maximum building height from 60 feet to 70 feet, and then also modifying development standards regarding the design of the project, basically to modify it to standard RMC 6 district standards in lieu of traditional neighborhood design is currently conditioned. As part of this, the applicant is proposing enhanced pedestrian connectivity along 30th Street and also providing enhanced tree plantings for vehicle use areas along the county roadways also. Staff is recommending approval with conditions, and we're available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant here? Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Joe Moretta, 400 North Ashley, Gardner Brewer Hudson, representing Channelside LLC. Commissioners, we're prepared to make a full presentation. However, in light of the fact that there's full staff support and no opposition, we're not seeking any new entitlements or uses. We're providing housing next to a significant employment area in Amazon. In light of the fact there's no opposition, no staff support, we will just reserve our time for questions if you have any.
All right, thank you, sir. Your
Thank you.
brevity is appreciated. Any proponent testimony? Anyone here in opposition? Commissioner Owen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, this is just really design changes, right, Mr. Gormley?
Yes, sir. It's design of the project. It's not an increase in the density.
Yeah, so this makes sense to me, so I'll move for approval.
We got a motion approved by Commissioner Owen, second Commissioner Cohen.
Commissioners, sorry for interrupting real quick. We do have a correction to a typo. I just forgot to read in the record. It's regarding condition 2.9, correcting basically correcting a typo where it said except for townhomes, for village homes, and multifamily development, modifying that to say except for townhomes and for village homes, multifamily should comply with RMC 16. So again, just correcting a typo, and we'll provide this copy of these conditions to the clerk for the record. Thank you.
All right, that'll be incorporated in the motion. No other comments. Please record your vote. E1.
Motion carries 6-0.
Next item.
Commissioners, the next item is item E2. It's PRS application 24-0626. This is a minor modification of plan development that's located on Robert Toll Road, north of Bloomingdale and east of US 301 in the Brandon area. Commissioners, the request is to modify buffering screening along the southern 260 feet of the property to remove required buffering in the area where there's vehicle use is being provided to provide access to the approved multifamily development to the rear of the property. Requires 6-foot screening in the form of a fence, wall, or hedge will continue to be provided. Staff is recommending approval and we're available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, is the applicant here? Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Commissioners, good morning. I'm Braulio Grajales, High Point Engineering, 5005 West Laurel Street, and I have been sworn. I'm prepared to provide a short presentation if I'm allowed to do that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Yep. Yes, okay, thank you. Okay. Thank you. So, Mount Zion African Methodist Episcopal Church in joint venture with the Smith & Hensey are proposing this affordable housing in Riverview. The property is located on the at the intersection of Bloomingdale and US 301. I'm presenting here on this screen the elevations of the proposed building, affordable housing building. The one to the left is facing south, and the opposite one is facing north. So this property, this is zoning map. The property, as you can see on the screen, is currently developed with one-story building church. The vast majority of the property, the 2/3 on the north side, are undeveloped. And last year, in July 2023, this property was rezoned under PD 230085 to develop the property with 75 affordable housing multifamily dwelling units for older persons. So we're here today aiming to rectify the approved 6-foot landscape buffer in accordance with Section 6 of 6 of the Land Development Code of Street Vehicular Use Areas, and to align with the 2 feet graphically display in the PD plan approved last year in the southern 260 feet of the property. In this picture, you can see the front facade of the existing church building. So the Land Development Code does not require any buffering between multifamily zone properties. However, the church is required to provide a buffer on the east side of the property. And our request, or this proposal, is to provide, eliminate the required landscape buffers on the east and west side of the property along the southern 260 feet portion of the property on the south, and the buffering shall consist of solid PVC fence, 6 feet in height, finished side out to keep the vertical separation between the two properties. And I want to present this slide, which is a picture taken from Robert Tolley to the north along the west property line. The red line signifies the property line, where the property line is approximately located. The current layout of the church and driveway does not permit or does not allow for much buffer. So that's really the nature of our request, is to eliminate the buffer to provide the two-way drive, which is going to continue north along the west side of the church building to gain access to the north side to provide access, vehicular access to the multifamily apartment on the north side of the property. So this one is a picture along from Robert Tolley facing north along the east side of the property. The property line is represented by the red line. There is an existing chain link fence on that side of the property. You guys can see the, or you commissioners can see the existing multifamily to the right, and the building, which is the existing driveway is very close to the existing chain link fence, and it will help us to eliminate the buffer required only on that section of the property to maintain the parking on that side of the church. So we have this proposed minor modification will not alter the land use compatibility with the development of the affordable housing. No changes in density or permitted use are being proposed. The Southwest Florida Water Management District and Florida Department of Transportation already provided permits for this site. And just want to point out that the entire project will generate less than 50 peak hour trips. Here is an overview in color of the project. The entire surrounding of the property is developed with multifamily to the east, to the north, and to the west. The existing building is signified by the yellow hatch to the south with the looks like a T cross. And then the skinny long building to the north is the proposed multifamily. So you can see that the only access to the building to the north is along the west side of the church, which requires that we eliminate the buffer along the 260 feet southern, 260 feet along the southern portion of the property, east and west. This is the site plan that you have, PD plan, revised PD plan that you have received in your packages, which clearly notes the reduction in the buffer. And lastly, I just want to indicate the design team is FK Architecture from Winter Park, highly experienced with affordable housing. Dark Moss is a local company that also has tremendous experience on affordable housing, and High Point Engineering, which I represent. With that being said, thank you very much for your time and attention. I'm here ready to respond to any questions you may have.
All right, thank you, sir. Any proponent testimony? Any opponent testimony? What's the pleasure of the board?
Move approval.
Motion to approve, Commissioner Cohen. Second, Commissioner Owen. If no comments, please record your vote on E2.
Motion carries 9-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next item.
Commissioners, next item is agenda item E4, Pierce application 24-0634. This is for a minor modification to a portion of planned development in the University Mall, associated with the University Mall. The request is to modify a condition that requires a pedestrian path along the north and east boundary of Development Block 2 and relating building facade design requirements that were incorporated as part of those required pedestrian path. The applicant is requesting to remove that This is before the board previously, and for similar reasons, the previous applications, similar discussions occurred regarding concerns by the applicant about provision of this pathway. Based on past board action, staff is not supporting the change to the condition that basically requires the trail to be constructed within 5 years of the prior minor modification approval. That was in December of last year. Again, we're not supportive of the change. I think Planning Commission also provided comments not in support of the change based on consistency with the ICMU 35 comprehensive plan policies, and staff's available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The applicant here? Morning, sir.
Good morning. I was waiting for our attorney who's walking in right now, and I'd love for her to actually give the quick intro, and then I'll just supplement. But to the extent I do need to sub in, I was ready.
Suzanne's got the paper copy. We'll just use that instead of the electronic. I am so sorry to be late this morning.
There's no excuse for tardiness.
I know.
Good morning. Do you need to be sworn in?
Yes, I do need to be sworn. Elise Batzel, for the record.
Please wait. Oh, your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Susan, I need the presentation. Nope, I'll just use the paper one. Okay. When did you get so efficient?
Move to continue.
Thank you. Good morning. For the record, Elise Batzel with Stearns Weaver Miller. We're here today for Core Spaces on a request to modify a site that was just before you last year. We do have a packet of information. If we may, Mr. Chair, submit it to the record.
Sure.
Thank you. So last year, we brought a modification to you to a PD. This is the University Mall property, 90.53 acres. And the area that the modification is related to is the area that is in blue. This is going to be a primarily student development, but it is being processed as a multifamily development in the northwest corner of the site. So when we brought this modification to you last year, you might remember there was a lot of discussion about a pedestrian trail that went on the north and the eastern side of the property. Planning Commission at the time would not support our application without the addition of that trail. And you may also remember that there was a lot of discussion and we ended up drafting conditions on the fly at the dais. Well, after we went back and we started to really evaluate what had happened with respect to the condition and the significant security implications of this path and trail, we went back to the drawing board and pretty soon after submitted this application to have you consider the elimination completely of the trail. So our request today is basically to eliminate the trail and related conditions. Now, sometimes we have seen this board prioritize real life issues over academic and theoretical issues that sometimes go into staff reports. And so we'd really like for you to consider today the real life implications of your decision. So since August of 2023, there have been numerous crimes in this area and on this particular site. They include grand theft auto, they include motorcycle theft, kidnapping with armed robbery, and assault. This is not new information, but I want to remind you of this. In fact, there were people that were scaling the walls of the parking garage to get into the facility for phase 1. Now we're on phase 2. These are real life issues that require serious consideration by the board. So staff raises 2 objections. They say that this is going to reduce connectivity, and we're going to show you why that is not the case. And the Planning Commission recommends that we implement the SEPTED design standards. SEPTED is crime prevention through environmental design, instead of eliminating the path. But our team has done in-depth research on SEPTED, and just as recently as yesterday, we've been conferring with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department, and we're going to demonstrate to you why SEPTED would say to eliminate the path, not encourage keeping the path. So transportation staff says, hey, you can no longer travel to and from Block 2 and between other blocks within the planned development if you eliminate the trail. But let's look at the reality of that statement. The property is located on your screen and the trail is in red. To the north of the property is the Unison Senior Living Facility. That's an ALF facility. The little inset that you see there is the existing condition. All across that property is a gate and a screen. There is no existing connectivity to the north. To the east of the property is the Hillsborough County drainage area, and I'm going to show you what that looks like in just a moment. So the photograph to your right is looking directly at the Hillsborough County drainage pond. The photograph to the left is exactly where the trail would run, north-south on the property. You can see that the trail would run right along a very isolated, overgrown, and unsafe area. Again, we are here solely to talk about the safety concerns that exist with the trail. Staff also claims that there is a reduction in connectivity to and from Block 2. Now, this is a very detailed plan for you, but what you can see here is that the property to the north, we talked of Unison. The property to the east, again, is the Hillsborough County drainage pond. The only thing that they're going to access by this trail is our parking garage. That's it. So there is a better and safer connection to the south and the west. Those arrows in blue represent a brand new roadway with a 12 to 16-foot pedestrian path and bicycle lanes, which are going to serve as a better connection for anyone trying to access the site. Now, accessing the site away from, within the PD, away from the Block 2 development, there is zero additional connection that is made between Block 2 and the PD. If you look at the trail, it's 1,170 linear feet. And if you look at the preferred, better, safer path to the west and to the south, it is exactly the same amount of space. So unless you want to go into this isolated area or you're trying to get into the development for nefarious purposes, there really isn't a reason to use that more isolated path as opposed to the new amenities that we're building to the south. Planning Commission staff talks about a number of issues. They talk about walkability within the site and the block. Well, I think it's really important to say that the comprehensive plan itself does not talk about walkability within each specific property. Those are words that are added to the staff report. Now, the Planning Commission has the authority, does not have the authority to add words to what is in the comprehensive plan. You guys do. And if you want to add a requirement that within each development there's walkability within each development, you absolutely have the authority to do that. You can go back and do a comprehensive plan change and a text change to the comprehensive plan amendment, but staff doesn't have the authority to make that change. But nonetheless, we have demonstrated the walkability and the integration of the site is maintained by the south and the west. The Planning Commission refers a lot, and you'll hear from them, to SEPTED. We know way more about SEPTED than we ever want to now. But SEPTED in its most basic form says this: it promotes taking ownership of your property and putting people out in the open. And there are a number of things like security measures and lighting that it includes, but the basic idea is that you separate the public and the private areas. Then you direct all of the people towards the public areas so that you create a safer environment. The Hillsborough County Sheriff told me safety in numbers, eyes and ears. This is what SEPTED is. So putting a trail in the back of our development adjacent to an isolated overgrown area or between two gates on the northern property is not consistent with SEPTED principles. The best practice is to direct everyone out to the south and the west, where everyone can be together, safety in numbers. I'm going to breeze through these because we don't have a lot of time, but there are a number of SEPTED policies in your own comprehensive plan that actually encourage the elimination of the trail. One of them talks about maximizing that visibility. The trail is placed physically away from the mix of uses in the rest of the PD. It does not direct you towards activity and people, and therefore it is less visible. That is not encouraged by SEPTED principles. SEPTED principles encourage only direction to the south and the west. It also says we should prevent public access from dark or unmonitored areas. Now, I want to explain what unmonitored means. It doesn't mean putting cameras out back. SEPTED is not about technology. SEPTED is about eyes and ears. So putting cameras back and lighting a trail doesn't make it appropriate for SEPTED. What makes it appropriate for SEPTED is to have people together looking out for one another. And that's what I've learned in these investigations. Finally, SEPTED talks about discouraging access to private areas, right? That prevents crime. That keeps people safer. So if we're having a public access easement and a trail behind this property, we are inviting the public onto private property. SEPTED says you should discourage access to private areas. And finally, this is really the most important policy because it kind of sums up the eyes and ears philosophy. Using natural surveillance, not technology, eyes and ears, to maximize community safety and crime prevention and minimize opportunities for public nuisance. Like I said, as recently as yesterday, we've been conferring with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department, and as part of the information that we're providing to the record is email correspondence between the both of us. Colonel Anthony Collins and I talked specifically about this development. We went over the site plan, we went over the staff report, and we went over our concerns as well as the Planning Commission's concerns. And I learned a lot about SEPTED. They have a whole SEPTED team at the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department. And I'm just pulling one sentence from his letter that I think is really important. He says, more to the point, he's talking to the path or the trail, will breed trouble along this isolated path along the ALF and in the corner and along the water. Now, I understand that staff has to look at what they have on paper, right? Their hands are tied in certain situations where they have to look and say, well, this sentence would say, I don't see that this is supported, but this is a different situation. This is a situation where I think we need to take a broader look at safety, not just for these residents, but for the community at large. The existence of the trail, the way that it was approved before, it raises significant safety concerns. And sometimes when you're negotiating from the dais, you don't have time to really digest the implications. So that's why we're back here today. We've demonstrated that there is no additional creativity. I didn't even see you over there. There is no additional connectivity, created by this trail. You're literally going from point A to point B in an isolated fashion instead of going from point A to point B in a more public, safe area. And I believe that we've demonstrated that the SEPTED standards encourage the elimination of the trail. I have thrown a lot of information at you in a very short manner, but our whole entire development team is here, our engineer is here, and we're available to answer any questions that you have, and we would respectfully request your approval of this request.
All right, thank you. Any proponent testimony? Anyone in opposition? Commissioner Wolstel?
Thank you. I believe I was the dissenting voice for the ridiculousness of the trail at the original hearing. I also have referenced this specific case as a damning case study and referendum on the county's spending of tens of millions of dollars of property taxes into a local nonprofit that was allegedly reducing these kind of exact issues that are preventing a safe community from being built in the area 20 years later. So I fully support removal of the trails requirement. Thank you.
Commissioner Owen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was dissenting too. I was concerned about safety during the last board meeting. I guess my question is, so it's kind of a little bit of a second bite at the apple we're dealing with, but this is new information that you have from the Sheriff's Department that you didn't have before, right?
Correct.
So to me, you know, I always want to be leery of going against a decision already made by our board. But when it comes to a clear public safety issue that this seems to be, you know, I'm inclined to stay with the same vote that I was at before, because to me, public safety would trump any type of second bite at the apple, which I don't like to encourage. So I'm going to move for approval of it. I know we're going to have some more board discussion, but I'll move for approval.
Okay, we got a motion to approve. Commissioner Owen, second Commissioner Cohen. Commissioner Cohen, you're recognized.
Well, I don't remember how I voted on it the first time, but based on the arithmetic, my sense is I was in support of keeping the trail. And you know, there are times when more information is helpful, and I think your presentation this morning was extremely compelling. When this first came to us in our briefing recently, and I remembered the case from last year, I thought at first, I can't believe we're going to be doing this again. But the reality is that I appreciate the fact that after you did a deeper dive, you came back and said, we've got to look at this again. Because I think based on what you said this morning, it does make sense to get rid of the requirement. And that's why, you know, to your point about making real life decisions, I think that's why people rather than computers make these decisions. And I think that you've made your case.
Thank you. Commissioner Cameron Tepeda.
Yes, because of the significant safety concerns, I agree with eliminating the trail as well.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Again, I apologize for my tardiness.
Thank you. All right, next item.
Commissioners, next item, agenda item F1 is rezoning PD 23-0780. This is a request for a modification to parcels consisting of 2 planned developments and an ASC 1 zone parcel to create a new PD. The site is presently being operated for the balance of the property as a RV sales and service facility. This would provide for an additional expansion of that facility on the properties currently not being utilized for that. Staff overall is recommending approval. You will see that recommendations are in part basically the one outstanding issue is there was a request along the northern boundary adjacent to single-family lots. Requested for a 2.5-foot reduction in the required buffer width, which is 20 feet. Our recommendation, as well as the hearing officer and the planning commission, was contingent on the full 20 feet being provided. I believe the applicant is still seeking the request for the board to allow for that reduction in the buffer. Overall, again, except for that one issue, staff has recommended approval, and the planning commission found it consistent, and the hearing officer also recommended approval. We're available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, is the applicant here?
Yes, this is Todd Chrisman. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good morning, Commissioners. I appreciate your time this morning. Mr. Chris McNeil, who's our engineer with the project and also an authorized representative, is in the hearing room if we need to go to the PowerPoint. As you can see, the zoning staff, the Planning Commission, and the zoning hearing master recommend support of this request. There is only one very small, tiny issue, which Mr. Grady referred to, which is the setback of an employee parking area. We originally were requesting 5 feet. After working with the staff, we did the political expedient thing, and we reduced that with putting pencil to paper to reduce that to 2.5 feet of issue. So in summary, Everything under the PD is supported by staffs. The only issue outstanding is 2.5 feet to allow a 17.5-foot setback. I will let you know that this is General RV. They are an outstanding corporate citizen. They have hundreds of jobs at this location, many of which are high-paying. Now, critically, Commissioners, we did 5 separate mailings, public notices to the public, a total of 396 notices. The only substantial or primary reason that the staffs in the ZHM do not agree with the 2.5 feet versus the 5 feet is because of the nearby residential. But I would submit to you that with 5 separate public notices and the big yellow signs being posted 5 times, there is no opposition. Everyone has been well noticed, and 2.5 feet is not a definitive reason to turn down the entire site, of which there's been no opposition. So with that, we'll hold off on the PowerPoint unless we need to go through it with you. We think it's a very positive issue. Again, no opposition. And we did everything we could to reduce that buffer to allow 17.5 feet, just 2.5 feet short. Thank you.
All right, thank you. At this time, any proponent testimony? Any opponent testimony? Planning Commission?
Thank you, Melissa Leinhardt, for the record. Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located within the residential 2 and the suburban mixed-use 6 future land use categories. The site is in the rural area and is not located within a community plan. Future land use element objective 16 and its accompanying policies require the protection of existing neighborhoods through various mechanisms. Future land use element policy 16.1 states that established and planned neighborhoods and communities shall be protected by implementing buffering and screening techniques between unlike land uses. The current site plan shows a planned development variation to the buffer along the southern edge of the property north of the existing residential neighborhood located along Edmond Court. This variation request is to allow for a 10-foot type B buffer on the central southern boundary of the site rather than the 20-foot type B buffer that's required. The requested PD variation would not be in line with the policy direction outlined in this policy, as the purpose of the required buffering and screening is to mitigate for the proposed employee parking in this area. Planning Commission staff are not supportive of the waiver, as it would result in employee parking being located directly adjacent to single-family homes to the south of the subject site. Even with the trees that the applicant proposes, it would still result in adverse impacts on the neighborhood to the south. Similarly, policies 16.2 and 3 seek to ensure that uses are complementary to one another and that there are gradual transitions between unlike uses. The proposed parking reconfiguration and variation is too intense for the residential character of the surrounding area to the south and does not provide an adequate transition of intensity and land use throughout the area. Hillsborough County Development Services staff is not supportive of the requested PD variation and therefore have added a condition of approval that specifically outlines the buffering and screening required by the Land Development Code. Planning Commission staff finding of consistent is dependent on this condition of approval to ensure compatibility with the residential properties to the south. The subject site does not meet commercial locational criteria as outlined in Future Land Use Element Objective 22 and Future Land Use Element Policy 22.2. Approximately 65% of its front-facing boundary along US 92 falls within the 900-foot distance from the qualifying intersection node of US 92 and Moores Lake Road. The applicant submitted a waiver request stating that the use is well screened and well buffered and that the proposed changes do not alter the operation or nature of the business on the site. It also states that the main operational and activity areas are located away from the neighboring areas. Planning Commission staff has reviewed the waiver request, and because the use mirrors the existing and approved activities on site, and overall the changes to the site plan are minimal in nature, with the exception of the PD variation, Planning Commission staff supports the waiver request and respectfully recommends the Board of County Commissioner approve the waiver to locational criteria. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed plan development consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the conditions proposed by Development Services. Thank you.
Thank you. Hearing Master?
The zoning hearing master reviewed the applicant's request to rezone the subject property to a unified plan development in order to combine the existing 2 plan developments and add an additional folio, which consists of approximately 2.3 acres. The proposed PD site plan modifies existing parking areas, sidewalks, stormwater ponds, and the motor vehicle bodywork building. The applicant is requesting a PD variation for a 2.5-foot reduction to the required 20-foot wide buffer to allow a 17.5-foot wide buffer with a sidewalk within the buffer area and screening consisting of a 6 to 8-foot high fence and tree plantings in the area of the subject property that is adjacent to residential single-family uses. The zoning hearing master did find that the request does meet with consistency with the comprehensive plan and meets with the land development code. However, provided that the development services department's specific condition 10.B related to buffering and screening is implemented. And that was the recommendation of the zoning hearing master, specifically for approval subject to the specific condition 10.B related to buffering and screening.
Okay, can we have a motion? Commissioner Owen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Gormley, so basically you're saying development service is not agreeable to the request for buffering. Is that?
That was our position. We didn't find that there was a sufficient justification presented in the application record to support the reduction in buffer. We're otherwise supportive of the application.
So, Mr. Pressman, well, this is an RV park, correct? We're dealing with an RV park. So
This is the Gen RV operational site, which is multiple use of sales, maintenance, body shop. It's a full range operation for the recreational vehicle industry.
And this is, we're basically, Mr. Gormley, just dealing with a 2.5-foot request. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, 2.5-foot reduction in the 20-foot buffer. Yes, sir.
And as far as
correct, it's 2.5 feet reduction where 20 feet is required. So we're providing 17.5 feet and additional buffering and screening. And the element of setback is for employee parking, which is very quiet. It's only used for employees coming and going, so the cars are there throughout the day. And I want to emphasize again that the abutting buffer is for a couple of residential sites, which have been noticed 5 times with almost 400 separate notices.
And there's been no opposition?
Zero opposition. We've had no calls, no letters, nothing in the record whatsoever.
All right, thank you, Mr. President.
RV continues itself to be an
We're good.
I'm good. I'm going to move approval.
All right,
Thank
got a
you.
motion to approve Commissioner Owen, second Commissioner Wostel. If no other comments, please record your vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
All right, F2.
Commissioners, next item is agenda item F2. It's rezoning PD 23-0848. The request is to rezone a 2.54 acre parcel on the east side of 33rd Street that's located between south of College Avenue, just west of I-75. The request is rezoned from ASC 1 to planned development for a 15,000 square foot warehouse with or without distribution. Commissioners, based on the surrounding zoning pattern, which includes immediately to the north of this parcel, CI zone, commercial intensive zoning district that provides for a wide range of intensive commercial uses, the proximity to I-75, the mixed-use plan category, and the fact that improvements to 33rd Street from College Avenue to the project entrance, consisting of adding paved shoulders on both sides of the roadways. Based on those provisions, staff is recommending approval of this application. The Planning Commission did find the request inconsistent, and they'll outline their reasons for that inconsistency find in their presentation. The hearing officer also did recommend approval subject to staff's conditions. And we're available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, the applicant here. morning, sir.
For the record, my name is Peter Pensum, an AICP planner with Avid Group, and I have been sworn in. I'll do just a real brief presentation. Mr. Grady did a good job summarizing the request for you. The site is located at the southwest quadrant of Interstate 75 and College Ave. As you can see on the aerial that I put up in front of you, the site is located at the bottom of that image. To the north of it is a variety of more intense both zoning districts and uses. The next two properties to the north are zones for CI, commercial intensive use. The property, and then there's a residential lot, and then to the north of that is a 5-story storage facility that's being constructed on that site. To the west of that is a landscape materials business with open storage, 2 hotels, a gas station, another property that's also has PD zoning for a 3rd hotel, and property surrounding the large lake that is a PD zone for condominiums. The land use for the property is CMU 12, which is a mixed-use category that allows for a broad range all the way from multifamily residential, 12 units an acre, to commercial, office, and industrial at 0.5 FAR. What we're requesting is a PD for 15,000 square feet, which is only 0.14, significantly less than what could be allowed under the future land use category. We've limited the uses to relatively low intensity trip generation uses, wholesale distribution, warehouse, and contractor's office uses. It should be noted that we have found here that there would be no outdoor storage. It'll be entirely enclosed within the 15,000 square foot building. And we designed the site, let me put that up for you. We designed the site specifically to provide for compatibility and transition from the two residential lots that are to the south. There is a single family home and a mobile home on 2 lots that abut us on the south property line. And then, as I said before, we are located on the I-75 on-ramp on the east side. To the west is the property frontage on 33rd Street, which is the facility that runs parallel with the interstate and serves the properties that front on the interstate. And then, like I said, we have a lake across the street from us. The site, as you can see from the plan, provides for a substantial amount of open space. We're proposing a 60-foot buffer, a 60-foot setback from the property to the south, with a first 30 foot of that being a type C buffer with a wall that would be 8 foot high. That exceeds the code standards. It was requested and worked out with staff to provide that as a compatibility measure to ensure compatibility. Also, as you can see, the building is designed to not have any activity on the south side. The activity is on the east and on the north to keep it away from the residential. And so with that, staff had found it compatible and recommended approval. The zoning hearing master also found it consistent with the comprehensive plan and recommended approval. And with that, I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone in support of the application? Anyone in opposition? Planning Commission.
Thank you, Melissa Leinhardt, for the record, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located within the Community Mixed Use 12 Future Land Use category. The site is within the urban service area and also located within the limits of the Ruskin Community Plan and the South Shore Area-Wide Systems Plan. Policy 1.4 of the Future Land Use element requires that all new developments be compatible with the surrounding area, noting that compatibility does not mean the same as, rather it refers to the sensitivity of development proposals and maintaining the character of existing development. The proposed warehousing uses, wholesale distribution, and/or contractor's office are not compatible with the existing single-family residential character of the area. Further north along College Avenue, a state arterial road is an existing nearby area that is appropriate for light industrial and commercial uses. The proposal does not meet the intent of the neighborhood protection policies outlined under Future Land Use Element Objective 16. Policy 16.1 requires development in residential areas to be limited to a neighborhood scale. Policy 16.5 requires that higher intensity non-residential land uses that are adjacent to established neighborhoods shall be restricted to collectors and arterials. The proposed use would be adjacent to an established residential uses north and south of the site, and access is proposed off a local road, 33rd Street Southeast. While the site is adjacent to the interstate on the east, there is no other opportunity for roadway access except for 33rd Street Southeast. The proposed use does not meet, or the proposal does not meet the intent of policy 16.5, as the proposed uses would be on a site that is not external to residential neighborhoods or on an arterial or collector. The applicant has proposed mitigation measures, including a 50-foot front setback, a 60-foot wide side setback rear of the building, and a 30-foot setback on the south with a 30-foot type C buffer with an 8-foot masonry wall. A proposed stormwater pond is on the east end of the site. Staff recognizes the mitigation measures proposed. However, one large 35-foot tall building adjacent to single-family residential is not compatible with the building pattern of the area. Additionally, no enhanced landscape on the north side, smaller buildings, or architectural features or other site design features that could help mitigate the proposed uses are proposed. In addition, the established neighborhoods definition of the comprehensive plan refers to land that has been at least 80% developed without substantial deterioration. The residential dwellings south of the site are existing developed homes and meet this definition. While the folio to the north is zoned commercial intensive, one folio permitting intensive uses does not change the overall residential character of the area. The proposed use is not consistent with Objective 16 and its associated policies. The subject site does not meet the intent of the Ruskin Community Plan. While the policy direction in the plan does not require all non-residential uses located on College Avenue, adopted language supports the location of commercial and office uses along College Avenue from the intersection of 21st Street to the eastern boundary of the community plan. College Avenue has been identified as an appropriate location for commercial and office uses within the community plan boundary. The proposed warehousing, wholesale distribution, and contractors' office uses are not within this area and are also located in an area that presents significant compatibility concerns. The Ruskin Community Plan also promotes commercial development at a scale and design that reflects the character of the community. The majority of the immediate surrounding area is residential or vacant land. Further north along College Avenue is light commercial in character. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed plan development inconsistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. Thank you.
Hearing Master.
The zoning hearing master considered the applicant's request to rezone the subject property to plan development to allow for the development of a 15,000 square foot warehouse for indoor storage, distribution, and contractors' office uses. The applicant is proposing a maximum building height of 35 feet, a south side yard setback of 60 feet, north side yard setback of 30 feet, rear yard setback of 50 feet, and a front yard setback of 50 feet. The applicant is proposing a 30-foot wide buffer with type C screening and an 8-foot high masonry wall on the south, which is adjacent to residential property zoned RSC 6 and RSC 6MH mobile home. The zoning hearing master's report noted that Development Services Department staff found the enhanced buffer and screening proposed for the property's south boundary adequate to protect the adjacent residential uses to the south. Staff found the proposed plan development does not present any compatibility issues and is not adjacent to an established neighborhood. For these reasons, the zoning hearing master concluded with a recommendation for approval of the PD rezoning.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Owen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Leinhardt, obviously I understand that planning is confined to the comp plan here on policy. So, but as far as the compatibility, I look at what Development Services said there, and I kind of agree. I look around, I don't see really any real established neighborhoods. Could you maybe address that a little better as far as planning goes? Because I look at the surrounding area, and it looks like a lot of commercial mixed use around there. So I'd just like to hear on your compatibility. Yeah.
I appreciate that, sir.
Yeah.
For the record, Melissa Leinhardt, Planning Commission staff. In our GIS viewer, I'm looking at the subject site, which is currently zoned ASC 1. To the north, 2 parcels are zoned commercial intensive uses, commercial intensive zoning, but the uses to the north and 2 parcels to the south are both single-family, actually 3 parcels to the south. They all contain single-family homes. So while the zoning, the CI zoning to the north, it would allow commercial intensive uses, it currently has a home. So we look at all of the development pattern, the future land use designation, the existing land uses, along with the zoning pattern, and try to balance all those interests together. And because of the single-family to the north and the 3 single-family homes to the south, we were taking the position of neighborhood protection and making sure that those homes were protected from this use, which, you know, with warehousing, that could be more intensive with truck traffic and noise and lights and things like that.
Okay, and Mr. Gorman, let's talk about that truck traffic issue. They're going to pave the shoulders, right? Which I think would, and I get that concern for sure, but they're going to actually pave the shoulders on this one, correct?
Yes, sir, from the project entrance up to 674, and that was a critical element of our support for this, noting that there would use, the proposal was to use trucks. We found that was important for safe operations in the area, and that is what is required if it's approved.
Very good. And would you agree? I mean, you all look at the neighborhood, and I get where planning's at. There are residential there, and has there been any objection from any of the neighbors there?
I believe there was one person who spoke at the hearing, but we looked at that area and felt that the really neighborhood area was further to the west. This area between the pond and the interstate on-ramp has a number of commercial uses approved there, some low-level ag zoning, and we found that this was appropriate for the area and found that the neighborhood protection consideration would have been more appropriate had this been further to the west, more where there are a number of established homes, but we felt that this was appropriate for this subject area.
And wasn't the one issue related to the truck traffic? Was that their big concern, or was it just the development in general?
I believe it was the truck traffic.
Yeah, good. I'll move approval.
Okay, we got a motion to approve by Commissioner Arnold. Second, Commissioner Cohen. If no other comments, please record your vote on F2.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Grady, next item.
The next item is agenda item F3 is rezoning PD 24-0183. The request is for a modification to a 2.47 acre parcel that's located on Garden Lane. It's an area that's east of US 301, north on Martin Luther King Boulevard. The request is to rezone to planned development to allow for a contractor's office to include pest control. Staff is recommending approval with conditions. The Planning Commission found it consistent, and the hearing officer is also recommending approval. We're available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant here? Going once. Going twice. All right, what's the pleasure of the board? Is there any opposition to this?
There is, I believe, one person who spoke at the hearing. I'm not sure if they're present in the audience, but one person did speak at the hearing.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the board? Do you want to move forward today? You want to continue it?
You know, I really think the applicants need to show up. So, I mean, I was going to move to continue unless someone else has an opinion on this particular. Yeah.
Second, if you
move to continue.
Oh, I have a motion to continue by Commissioner Owen, second Commissioner Myers. And what's the date? The next
July 9th at 9 a.m.
July 9th at 9 a.m. Okay, please record your vote for continuance.
Motion carried 7-0.
All right, next item.
Commissioners, that takes us to a related portion of the agenda. We have 4 related items regarding 3 rezonings and a minor modification to parcels that are located in the Citrus Park area, south of Citrus Park Drive, west of Citrus Park Lane, and also west of the Veterans Expressway. The first item, G1A, is a major modification to allow to the planned development to provide for 2 development options, one to recognize an existing development option, and the second development option, which is really the main focus of this change, is related to the G1B and G1C applications, is that this modification would provide for access to the parcels, the G1A, G1B, and G1C zoning applications that are on this agenda. It'll provide access to those parcels through this project to Citrus Park Lane. building, and will also accommodate the ability for the G1B application to utilize some of this property for some of the proposed multifamily. Staff is recommending approval of this. The Planning Commission found it consistent, and the hearing officer also recommended approval.
Okay, so we have 4 related items. We'll hear each one individually, but we'll defer voting until the end, and then we'll vote on all 4 at one time. So is the applicant for G1A present? Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. William Malloy, 325 South Boulevard, Tampa, Florida. Commissioners, this is the first piece of the Big Cat Sanctuary redevelopment. This application and the particular dirt it covers really provides some of the essential infrastructure for the 2 requests that you'll hear next. It really doesn't make much sense without them. This request has 2 distinct options. The first one being essentially the status quo, which is approved hotel and BPO uses. We would be adding a little bit of acreage from the private right-of-way formerly known as Easy Street to that. That's the only delta in the first option. The second option is a little bit more involved. It's the one we prefer, and it's shown here on the Elmo. In this instance, what we're doing is extending Citrus Park Lane from its current terminus through the parcel, and by doing that, essentially dividing the parcel into a Tract A and a Tract B. Tract A will serve the multifamily development that's being proposed to the west. It will also allow for the spillover of a building footprint, but there's no density associated with this building. That building and all the units in it track to the 994 request, which comes next. We're also providing a trail connection from the lane extension over to the Upper Tampa Bay Trail, preserving the on-site wetlands, and likely using some of the space for stormwater retention or attenuation. That is the nuts and bolts of it. Again, it's really, this is kind of a keystone piece to the 2 pieces that really need entitlement, but nothing works without this one. For the record, again, I think it was mentioned we have the support of Development Services, the Planning Commission, and a favorable recommendation from the ZHM, and I am here and happy to answer any questions about this.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone here in support of the application? Anyone in opposition? Planning Commission?
Thank you. Melissa Leinhardt for the record. The subject property is designated as urban mixed use 20 on the future land use map. It is located in the urban service area and is also located within the limits of the Northwest Hillsborough Community Plan. Policy 1.4, the future land use element, requires all new developments to be compatible with the surrounding area, and option 1 is consistent with this policy direction. Future land use element policy 1.2 and 1.3 outline requirements regarding minimum density. If the applicant pursues option 2 as a multifamily extension of PD 23-0994, which you'll hear next, it is possible that the density on the subject site would not meet the 75% of the maximum allowable density of 48 units. Approximately 0.33 acres, which is 12% of the subject site, contain wetlands. Planning Commission staff finds that the proposed development meets the criteria under policy 1.3, as the development at a rate of 75% of the allowable density may create adverse impacts on the wetlands of the subject site. The request is therefore consistent with these objectives and policies in the future land use element related to environmental considerations. The proposal is consistent with Objective 16 and its accompanying policies related to neighborhood protection. The hotel/BPO proposal under option 1 is compatible with the other light commercial uses along Citrus Park Lane and poses minimal adverse impacts to the uses located west and south. Option 2 is also consistent, as it would provide an extension of multifamily uses that are compatible with the surrounding area. If the applicant pursues option 2, the proposed multifamily uses would be complementary to the area given the site's proximity to commercial uses. The overall density is consistent with the site's future land use designation of UMU 20 and is compatible with the surrounding area. The proposed plan development is consistent with the Northwest Area Community Plan Section B and C, which seeks to mixed-use neighborhoods that are pedestrian-friendly and offer a variety of housing types while maintaining property values and the structure of existing neighborhoods. Both development options of the proposed plan development meet the intent of the community plan. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed plan development consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the conditions of approval by the Hillsborough County Development Services Department. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Hearing master?
The zoning hearing master reviewed the applicant's request for rezoning of 2.447 acres from planned development to a new planned development in order to provide two development options. The existing PD 16559 is currently approved for up to 81,798 square feet of business, professional, office, and hotel land uses. The proposed option 1 will include additional acreage from RZ 22-856 in the amount of 0.32 acres and consists of parts of Easy Street along the western project boundary and a section of a private right-of-way along the northern project boundary via a companion personal appearance application to remove the 0.32 acres from PD 22-856. No new entitlements are proposed. The proposed option 2 will divide the parcel into two tracts, with tract A to be a part of the multifamily development to the west under PD 23-994. Tract B would permit the extension of Citrus Park Drive to the townhome project to the south under PD 24-31. No PD variations or waivers are being requested. And approval of the PD zoning with the conditions proposed by Development Services staff was recommended by the ZHM as it serves to provide for a compatible land use in the area.
Okay, thank you. And we'll, again, defer vote until the end of all 4 items. So, Mr. Grady, you want to introduce G1B?
The next item is G1B, is rezoning PD 23-0994. The request is rezone a 22.01 acre, approximate acre parcel from a planned development in AS1 to a planned development to provide for 312 multifamily units. Again, this is located in the Citrus Park area, west of Citrus Park Lane. As noted, access to this parcel would be through the G1B rezoning application along the eastern boundary. Of compatibility standpoint, as you can see, there's a significant amount of wetlands on the southern property boundary which provides separation from the existing larger lots to the southwest of the property. Based on the surrounding development pattern and the zoning conditions of approval, staff is recommending approval. Planning Commission found it consistent, and the hearing officer also recommended approval. We're available for questions.
All right, thank you. Applicant here?
Good morning. Thank you very much. For the record, Isabella Albert with HAF representing the applicant RAM. As staff explained, this development is part of the 3 that you're going to be hearing today. This one is for a multifamily development for 312 units. It is being proposed to be developed on the north side of the wetland areas. And due to that, we are requesting a little waiver to the buffer and screening. However, to the north is a large mall, and therefore the compatibility concerns, there was found not to be any compatibility concerns from both staff. And as stated earlier, or saw earlier, our access is going to be from the east from 993. That will also serve a parcel to the south of us. It's pretty self-explanatory. Unless you have any questions, I have a presentation as well.
All right, thank you. Anyone here in support of this application? Anyone in opposition? Planning Commission?
Thank you, Melissa Leinhardt, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located within the residential 9 future land use category. The site is in the urban service area, and it's located within the limits of the Northwest Hillsborough Community Plan. The proposal includes a flex of the UMU 20 future land use category located to the north and east of the subject site to 19.64 acres of the total 22.01 acre site. The proposal is consistent with Objective 7 and Policies 7.3 and 7.4 as it furthers the intent of the UMU category with the proposed residential multifamily use and the surrounding commercial and residential uses. The applicant has included in their narrative that the site and surrounding development are planned for adequate public facilities to support the flex. The applicant has also stated that because the site is adjacent to a large commercial development to the north and east, the flex provides an additional housing type. The proposal is consistent with Objective 16 and its accompanying policies relating to neighborhood protection. The subject site is bordered by the Upper Tampa Bay Trail and the Veterans Expressway to the east, and further north of the site is the Citrus Park Mall. The site also has a connection point to the adjacent 23-0993 to the east. Furthermore, stormwater ponds and wetland areas are located on the west and south of the site, providing a buffer from the adjacent properties. The proposed plan development supports the vision of the Northwest Area Community Plan by proposing multifamily residential development that would blend in with the surrounding commercial development and townhome development proposed to the south. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed plan development consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the conditions proposed by Development Services. Thank you.
Hearing Master.
The zoning hearing master considered the applicant's request to rezone 22.01 acres from plan development and AS1 to plan development to allow the development of a maximum 312 multifamily dwelling unit, multifamily residential project. The subject PD will be part of a unified development with PD 23-993 to the east, which has been approved for multifamily residential development under its option 2. No PD variations or waivers are requested. As the board has heard, Planning Commission staff supports the request, including a flex of the UMU 20 land use category from the north, and found the rezoning to be consistent with the plan. The ZHM recommended approval of the PD zoning with the conditions proposed by Development Services staff, as it serves to provide for a compatible land use in the area, and the proposed land use is consistent with the Land Development Code and plan.
All right, G1C.
G1C is rezoning PD 24-0031. It's a request to rezone approximately 59.93 acre parcel from 3 PDs and RC2 to a planned development for 230 townhomes. Again, this is located south of the G1A parcel through which access is being provided this parcel. Again, located on the west of the Veterans Expressway and south of those 2 other related zoning applications. Request is for 230 townhomes. Staff is recommending approval, and the hearing officer is also recommending approval. Planning Commission did find it inconsistent, which they'll articulate in the report, but I think it believes it is dealing with the access to Meadowview Circle to the south. The applicant is proposing emergency and pedestrian access to that roadway, and I believe Planning Commission is desirous of a full connection, including vehicular connections. Staff is available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the applicant here? Good morning.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good morning. Jake Kramer with Stearns Weaver Miller, 401 East Jackson Street, number 2100. Here representing D.R. Horton. Commissioners, I want to start by saying we have a full presentation, but we're going to just focus our presentation today briefly on the Planning Commission and our disagreement there. And if you have other questions, we're happy to answer those. But I did want to say I think this is a really good example of how we should be doing development in Hillsborough County, because staff really held our feet to the fire as this group of developers to come together with a bigger picture, and they really worked hard with us to try to connect all the dots between the different developers. This, my particular application, we are the transition. So we're the transition between the denser apartments up towards Citrus Park Mall versus the 1960s single-family subdivision to our south. And really the crux of our disagreement with Planning Commission staff is there's language in the comprehensive plan that suggests in this area we should be minimizing cul-de-sacs. And we have minimized it to only 1. The reason we did that was in our, we had a really good community meeting in January. The consistent feedback we heard from every resident in the room at that time, please do not connect your new community to our 1960s subdivision. We would like the pedestrian connection. We do not want vehicular connection because we do not believe that would be compatible with our development. And we made that pledge to them that even if staff disagreed, we would come before you all and tell them that's what the community wants and that's what we would like. So I'm going to turn it over to David Smith just to explain some of the nuances of our planning position, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. David Smith, Director of Development and Zoning for Stearns Weaver Miller. As Jake indicated, really there are no objections from any staff, and I'll flip through this and get to the crux of the issue. So when you review the staff reports, the Planning Commission's report, the zoning hearing master's finding, what you find is county staff finds it compatible with the surrounding area, no concerns with proposed variations, recommends approval, and has actually evaluated the connection to the south and found that historically the PDs that were approved for the sanctuary, the Big Cat, limited connections, limited traffic to Meadowview Circle and Meadowview Drive to protect that community. In this proposal, we are staying the course with that. We do not want to impact that community. When you look at the policies in the plan, the ones that the Planning Commission are concerned about are the community plan policies, which talk about limit the number of cul-de-sacs, try to have connectivity of neighborhoods to get to jobs and services. And we believe that the connectivity that would be created by us connecting to Meadowview would actually burden the community with all the traffic and really not provide them any of the benefits. Right now they have direct access to Sheldon. Their community gets directly out to where they need to be. If we added the connection from Citrus Park Lane through our townhouse development into the community, they would have all the traffic potentially from the apartments, from the townhomes, from the mixed-use development, for people trying to maybe avoid the Citrus Park Lane intersection as you get close to the veterans. So when we look at these policies, it talks about what are we trying to do? And we are proposing to implement mobility policy 4.1.2. It says require pedestrian and bicycle interconnections. Our project does that. Compatible development, and then also, where appropriate, require vehicular interconnections. We believe the Planning Commission has taken a very conservative view, and I think they are reading the policies in the plan and the community element and are trying to apply it to this case. But we believe of all the cases in the county where you would require connectivity, policy 4.1.2 actually really overrides it in this particular case. So with that, we'd be glad to answer any questions that you may have, but we think that this is a very good project. It develops this area in a very thoughtful way, and we've had nothing but support from the community. When you see anything in the record, the only thing you see in the record are comments from the local residents saying, hey, we're with you as long as you don't connect to our neighborhood. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions, try to make that fairly succinct.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nothing further.
All right. Anyone in support of the application? Anyone in opposition? Planning Commission?
Thank you, Melissa Leinhardt. For the record, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located within the residential 4 and residential 9 future land use categories. The site is in the urban service area and located within the limits of the Northwest Hillsborough Community Plan. Future Land Use Element Policy 1.2 requires that all new residential or mixed-use developments develop at least 75% of the maximum allowed density unless the development meets the criteria of Future Land Use Element Policy 1.3. The site contains a large amount of wetlands. Meeting minimum density could have an adverse impact on the site's environmental features. The requested density meets the environmental features exception to minimum density. Policy 1.4 requires all new developments be compatible with the surrounding area. The subject site is located near several single-family developments to the south, and multifamily uses are located further east and west. Planning Commission staff acknowledges that the proposed townhome use and density is similar to the surrounding development pattern. However, new developments must also ensure compatibility whenever a density increase is proposed. The site plan includes a 9.5-foot wall or type A 5-foot buffering with a 6-foot fence or wall on the western boundary, and a type A 5-foot buffer with a 6-foot tall fence with landscaping on the southwestern and southeastern boundaries. However, the proposal conflicts with policy 16.7 of the future land use element, which requires that residential neighborhoods be designed to include an efficient system of internal circulation and street stub outs to connect adjacent neighborhoods together. Policy 16.10 considers vehicular traffic, circulation, and access as factors that impact compatibility. The proposed cul-de-sac on the south end of the subject site directly conflicts with each of these policies. The community design component also encourages new projects to develop in a traditional urban pattern within urbanizing areas. The site is located directly adjacent to the UMU 20 future land use category, highlighting the importance of this policy direction. Objective 13-1 and Policy 13-1.4 require communities to be designed around a modified grid network of streets in order to improve connections between neighborhoods. The proposed cul-de-sac directly conflicts with this policy direction. The mobility section, Goal 4, seeks to provide safe and convenient connections within the transportation network that support multimodal access to key destinations. Objective 4.1 encourages communities to be designed around a grid network of streets or a modified grid, which will improve interconnections between neighborhoods. Although the site provides multiple opportunities for pedestrian access, the cul-de-sac directly conflicts with the mobility section policy direction. Section C of the Northwest Area Community Plan seeks to ensure flexible and innovative mobility options to offset the deficient street network. This section also requires new developments to be designed with a continuous local network of roads characterized by short blocks and minimal use of cul-de-sacs. These measures help separate community-based trips from long distance through traffic and provide a variety of alternate routes and itineraries that connect to adjacent neighborhoods as often as possible. The proposed cul-de-sac directly conflicts with the Northwest Area Community Plan vision. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed plan development inconsistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. Thank you.
Hearing Master.
The zoning hearing master reviewed the applicant's request to rezone 53.93 acres from 3 planned developments and the RSC to MH district to planned development to allow 2 development options, including option 1, which would permit the existing entitlements under the already approved PDs for the wildlife preserve, and RSC to MH. Option 2 would permit the development of a maximum 230 townhome dwelling unit development. Development Services staff found the request for townhomes proposed in option 2 to be compatible with the existing development pattern. The zoning hearing master noted that the county's transportation review section has no objection to the request subject to the proposed zoning conditions. The zoning hearing master found that the proposed gated emergency vehicular access to the south provides not only emergency access but also future access if warranted. This was found to meet the intent of Future Land Use Policy 16.7 regarding connections to adjacent neighborhoods, as well as Mobility Policy 4.1 of the Comprehensive Plan regarding interconnections between neighborhoods. The zoning hearing master emphasized that the applicant has proposed pedestrian access and gated vehicular emergency access to the south. Full vehicular access to the south was found by the ZHM to be inappropriate at this time, as the adjacent neighborhood to the south supports the rezoning project contingent upon the access point being gated. Letters of support from the neighboring subdivision residents have been filed confirming the position that a full access point to the south would be undesirable. The ZHM noted that the subject PD includes a requirement to construct 2 connections to the Upper Tampa Bay Trail. The ZHM stated that the subject property is limited in terms of available area for development and access connections to adjacent parcels, given the significant wetlands along the western and eastern portions of the site. The zoning hearing master found for approval of the PD zoning with the conditions proposed by the Development Services Department, which was found to be serving of a compatible land use in the area consistent with the code and the comprehensive plan. The recommendation by the ZHM was for approval subject to the Development Services Department's conditions.
Okay. Now for the final related item, G1D. Ms. Grady.
Commissioners, the final item, G1D, is PRS application 24-0627. This is for minor modification to a existing planned development, approximately 6.17 acres in size. This is an area, this PRS is dealing with planned development in proximity to the other adjacent three PDs, and acreage from this PD is being incorporated into the other related items. And henceforth, that this PD is being modified to show removal of those acreages from the PD and adjust the conditions accordingly to recognize those adjustments and coordination of development amongst all four applications. Staff has recommended approval and we're available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant here?
Good morning again, Commissioners. William Malloy, 325 South Boulevard. As Mr. Grady indicated, the pure intent of this application was really just to shift some dirt around, bringing about half an acre to the first case I presented. We also have the opportunity with this application to put a trip cap on Citrus Park Lane, which was fundamental in making this whole thing work, and that we can control, at least per staff's direction and their thoughts on what the amount of traffic and future traffic on Citrus Park Lane should be. We have a governor on that, which now accounts for all the entitlements we're proposing today and everything that's been previously approved. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Any proponent testimony? Anyone in opposition? Planning Commission?
We did not provide comment on this
No, that's
PRS.
fine.
Thank you.
All right. Hangmaster, anything on here?
This is a PRS, so no recommendation.
Okay. Now we'll go into board discussion. Commissioner Wostel?
Thank you. I was going to voice my concerns about the emergency access point, and then Ms. Lundgren actually said the inside part out loud, in my opinion, about what it can ultimately turn into. And right now, it's not permissible for access, but what I would say to the community is that if they get an emergency access point now, what will happen in 5, 10, however many years, you will be up here talking to a different set of commissioners saying, this was never supposed to be a full access point, we didn't approve this, and adding the emergency access point will invite that exact meeting to happen. I'm predicting the future. I don't believe it should be there. So I'll just leave it there. Thank you.
Commissioner Kemp?
And I'll move approval of the entire item. I think it's well done. We have no opposition in here at this time, and if that happened in the future, there'd be a lot of people in here opposing it. I don't see that happening, but I think it's a wise thing to have that
Second.
access. And I just want to, it seems like a really well done plan.
And I agree. First of all, I want to thank staff. I know they've spent a lot of time and effort on this, several months in the making. I can tell you, again, this is in my district. I'm excited about this development. The current developer has done a wonderful job with the existing office complex and hotel, and knowing him and his attention to detail, I can tell you this will be a first-class development. It's extremely rare that we have a development of this magnitude and not have a single person here in opposition. I mean, that alone speaks volumes. Regarding the connectivity, I mean, we've seen this a million times. Planning Commission or staff, they always encourage it. Neighborhoods never want it. At least in this case, I think as was pointed out by the applicant, that the additional traffic would be a burden to the existing neighborhood. So I support not requiring the condition. And then finally, on a personal note, I'm sad to see Big Cat Rescue go away. As someone that's visited and toured several times, I'm sad to see that. But if you know the story, it's actually a success story in that what they've been able to accomplish, not only locally with the cats, but with federal legislation that allows this to happen. So it's a good thing. So happy to support it. And we got a motion and a second. Commissioner Cohen?
I just want to clarify with the maker of the motion that on it's emergency access and pedestrian access, but not full vehicular access. That's right? Okay, thank you.
All right, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
All right, thank you. All right, last item.
Commissioners, it's Commissioner Kent's item regarding the Live Local Act.
Commissioner Kent.
Thank you. I have a commissioner's item on the agenda this morning, and we have had much discussion and some concern about the 2023 Live Local Act. It's very, very complex. And I know that the county attorney is working on a memo on the topic, and I do hope that there is a public presentation because I think everyone can use it. The most important distinction is that Live Local involves both tax consequences and land use consequences. And these two categories of issues are different and separate from one another. The tax exemption is what we're allowed to opt out of. This opt-out is under brand new 2024 legislation. This is what the Pasco County Commission just did. And I believe we should do the opt-out here too. As in Pasco, we have sufficient housing for the 120% median income bracket and shouldn't be subsidizing rentals at that level. However, the opt-out doesn't apply this year. It isn't available until the 2025 tax roll. The land use process is completely different. There's no opt-out to the land use process. This is an administrative land use process created by state law for approval of multifamily housing developments according to state standards in places the county hasn't planned to put them at all. The board has absolutely no role in it. These projects will be impactful in the county, and I think it would be best for this board, and I have stated this before, but I'm formally bringing it now. I think it would be best for this board to be informed of these developments as they occur, just basic information from staff. This will help us understand the impact of the legislation and of the developments themselves. I discussed this with Adam Gormley. I understand there's nothing we can do about these developments, but I think we should at least have a handle on what's moving forward. And I also think the public would benefit as well by having this information. So my motion is to direct staff to provide a report and presentation on the progress of Live Local projects at monthly land use meetings.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Kemp, second Commissioner Cohen. Commissioner Wostel.
Are we sure? I know that the law specifically says that we're not to be involved at all. And I just want to make sure that we're not creating something that creates the perception of us still being involved.
I've looked at this, and it's certainly within the board's purview to ask for reporting. It's not asking that the board approve or become involved in the process. Rather, it's simply a report.
Okay.
Informing the board.
What I don't want to do is haphazardly create another tool for these crafty attorneys to use against us. I mean, it's already really strong against us. So I've always been vocal about being against Live Local Act, and I will continue to be and support this item. Thank you.
I too am sensitive to Commissioner Wostel's concerns. However, I'll tell you, I think we're just somewhat, I don't know if memorializing is the right word, but we're just publicly doing what I've been doing privately, candidly asking Adam for frequent updates on who's filed an intent or who's filed, or if there have been any applications. So I don't see any harm in supporting this. So we got a motion and a second. Please record your vote. Commissioner Kemp, you want to make a final comment?
Oh, I thought Commissioner Worcester was making, I just wanted to say I've been doing the same thing, but I think it's not just us privately that should have this knowledge, but the public as well, just as it progresses.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Worcester.
I just wanted clarification. So are you not also, when are we taking up the issue? Is this motion not covering the removal of property tax, the opt-out?
It's not at all. This is just a report monthly, so we know who's filed and what's been approved, just to update us, so we're not ignorant if a apartment complex is put down with 500 apartments, just so we have that on our radar. I just think it's reasonable.
Okay. No other comments. Please record your vote.
carries 7-0.
Okay. If no other items, we're adjourned.